Hey guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to the M4J network here on OpenTTD. Today we are heading back to oil. You might remember a few weeks ago, almost maybe even a couple of months ago now, we built a huge oil terminal up in the oil depot, oil refinery depot station terminal thingy, right up in the north east corner of the map, just south of Gronwell Superior. Today we're actually doing something with that. We've got some oil tankers that arrive at Morningpool Falls. So I thought the first thing we would do is have an oil train that starts at Morningpool Falls and heads over to, I want to say Cardtown, but it's not Cardtown. We'll see it in a second anyway. In fact, I'm scooting over there now. Again, I'm not going to talk too much about what's going on the screen. Or at least not try and tie up with what's going on the screen. Oh god, I wish I could read that. It's really blurry on my preview because I have to blur it, otherwise the whole thing buffers. It's a whole technical issue thing. But yeah, it runs from Morningpool Falls to that oil terminal, and it runs via Guard City South and Lanning Way Industrial Estate, and that's in both directions. We don't actually have oil needed at Lanning Way, but it might pick up other things along the way. And then it heads back via Lanning Way, where it drops off chemicals, and it also stops at Guard City South, where it drops off chemicals and petrol, and then back to Morningpool Falls, where I think also drops off chemicals. Not everything is perfect right now. There are some things that don't work that perhaps should, which is kind of annoying. I don't like my logistics setup on this map still. I kind of want to just air that grievance. One thing that annoys me right now is I don't have enough wagon sets that are auto refittable. You have to go to a depot to do it, which I guess is something that I could do, and it is something that in fact I do during this episode. But I know that the latest version of BR trains by is it Ordegex? I don't want to pronounce it wrong, but I probably have already. That does have, I think it's got tanker wagons now, flatbeds, and I think it's got closed wagons as well. I'm trying to remember. I am part of the Discord, but it's been so long since I actually actively went on Discord for anything other than just replying to people tagging me and things. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but if that is the case, then I know how to make those auto refittable, so I might go and create my own version of those, and we'll see where we go from that, because I kind of want to get that anyway, because it's got more new trains in. The only thing that's holding me back on that right now is it's still experimental from what I can recall, and also I'd have to redo half the trains on the network so that it doesn't cause issues with the lack of M4J rail livery. I do want to redesign the M4J rail livery when I get time. Might need some help with that at some point. If anyone's a pixel artist and has some free time on their hands, please do get in touch. Anyway, before I tell you the rest of my life story, that's phase 1 of this video. You see here as I'm setting it up. It takes kind of a weird route. This train, it runs up the Great Western to Guard City South, same as always. Then it runs along the Great Eastern through Henning Hall Junction, and then up through Nut Hill City Centre, and then from there it takes the line that joins the Great Northern Main Line at, is it Pladhatton Springs Junction or whatever that one's called, and then runs across the Great Northern Main Line, takes a brand new little freight loop line that you'll see me build in this episode, and then drops down to the oil refinery. I think it's a pretty good route. I was originally going to use the Network Central, and then run it along the Great Eastern from there, because then that way it can go through Lanning Way en route. I might still end up doing that. The great thing right now is I can reroute trains pretty much whenever I like. So we'll see how well that goes. Again, like with last week's video, I haven't got an update on the database, but I would like to start keeping a record of where all these freight trains run. There's something that George posted a link to on the Discord, which I have downloaded but not tried out yet, which is to do with scheduled dispatch. It helps you plan services. I think it helps you plan. So the thing I don't know about it is exactly how it works. I've read the description on the page like 7 or 8 times, and I still can't quite get my head around how it works. It's meant to tell you when trains would intersect with one another, so that you don't end up accidentally scheduling 2 trains into the same station at the same time, which is fine. But it says it avoids the need to have to run the train to get the data. But surely you have to run the train to get the data, because unless it plugs into your save file, how is it meant to know how far apart these stations are and how long it takes to run between them? If there is a way to plug it into your save file and it can calculate it for you, then brilliant. But I don't know if that's actually how it works or not. But regardless, I've got it installed on the same device that I have the game on. So if that is the case, then great. If not, then we'll find a way, I'm sure. But yeah, as I keep saying, I want to get the database going. And I did set the target of end of December. That I don't think is achievable now, let's be honest. I still need to make a GitHub for it. The files were posted on the Discord. I don't think anyone's touched them since they were put on there. Life is getting in the way right now. Jobs, uni, all that stuff for everyone involved. So it's kind of died a death a little bit, but I don't want this one to die. There's so many projects that I've worked on in the past that haven't worked out for whatever reason, and I don't want this to be one of them. I actually want to do something with this because I think it'd be really, really cool. So again, call to arms. If there's anyone out there who is a budding coder and wants something to really test their mettle, then please do join the Discord and help us out, basically, because I don't have the time to work on it right now. It doesn't sound like George has the time to work on it right now. So if anyone else wants to get involved, please do. Yeah, that's basically it for that. Oh, you'll see me check a signal here, by the way, to make sure that it's all set up for the freight train to run through. What I didn't do is the facing away signal there. So the train gets stuck there for about 6 hours when I was testing it. So the first run through, it said it took 6 hours longer to get to the refinery than it should have. So that's one reason why I don't like scheduled dispatch, because every time you update a timetable like that, for example, it resets everything. And that's very, very annoying. Here's me building that freight loop then. It is 2-track. I think pretty much the entirety of its length is 2-track, which is awesome. It's 30 miles an hour running. All my little diversionary freight lines are 30 mile an hour running. There's no point making them 60 just to then slow them down again. It doesn't take too long for a train to traverse it anyway, so it's no big deal. What am I doing here? Something to do with... Oh, yeah. No, I remember now. Connecting that line up. There we go. So this is mainly going to be used by these oil trains, but also any train really that goes from the Great Northern, Grand Northern, sorry. I think I've called it Great Northern a few times. I mean Grand Northern, onto the East Coast main line. They're pretty much all going to use this line. There might be some that go all the way down as far as Sindwood, and go via the North Valleys line when they get to Beffing Way, which I think is the less hilly route. I guess it is the less hilly route. Oh, also, yeah, I don't build tunnels here because they would be like 20 miles long to scale, and they do pop out right near the line. So you see, I changed my mind here and actually go round the north side to actually make this worthwhile. So this is part 1 of the video, as I said. Part 2 is another set of oil logistics, but this time from Broadworth Falls. I've remembered the name of it now, which is down in the southeast corner, that freight depot that we built, God, it must be about a year ago now. It's a frighteningly long time ago. And then that runs also up to this oil refinery, and we have a series of freighters that pick up oil from the oil rigs along the east coast and bring them into Broadworth Falls, where the train then carries them on. We also set up a series of ships around Guard City South. I can't remember if I did this on camera or not, but I've set up loads of buoys in the canal that run from Guard City South to Guard City North, and I do actually have it's one at the moment, but I'm going to have a series of freighters that run between Guard City North and Guard City South, mainly because there's petrol being delivered at Guard City South, and I wanted to convey that up to Guard City North, because I think there's a petrol station near there, so the whole station accepts petrol. I'm going to be so bored of the words petrol, oil, and chemicals by the end of this video. I can tell you that already. But yeah, that's what the second part of the video is. And then since then, off camera, I've been doing loads of other little tinkering things here and there. We've got a whole roadway set up now between Marston Industrial Park and Guard City South. I'm having this problem in Transport Fever as well, but Transport Fever is less troublesome. than OpenTTD when it comes to actually what a train can carry, because if you just leave it at default, it picks up whatever needs to go. My problem with scheduled dispatch in OpenTTD is sometimes you get stuff that's just going anywhere. So it doesn't have a designated destination, which to some people that's fine. But to me, it's a bit problematic because right now I had 2 trains doing laps of Guard City South because they happened to be carrying wood, and I didn't have a set of platforms at Guard City South set up for wood. Why they were carrying wood, I've no idea. I think they were heading to Lanningway, which does accept wood. But even so, it was kind of annoying that it was doing that. So that's one problem. And also trying to set up trains to refit. If you just set it, I think this is more to do with, actually no, I think this is to do with scheduled dispatch as well. Not scheduled dispatch, sorry. Cargo dist. I think I said scheduled dispatch before, but I meant cargo dist. Distribution, that is, where if you set up a train to auto refit, it doesn't make that cargo wait at the station. At least I don't think it does. It definitely didn't used to, and I'm sure I read in some patch notes recently that had been fixed, but I checked it again recently, and this as well kind of proved it. I had to manually set the train to refit to a certain cargo before I started seeing that cargo appear at the station. Which to me, that doesn't sound right. That sounds backwards to what it should be. So there's that as well, which I'll admit again is a little bit annoying. But again, I'm not a coder. I know it's not just as easy as changing some numbers and then suddenly bang, it works. It's just an irritation of mine, let's be honest. Just an irritation of mine. Again, maybe I've got a setting wrong. Some of these things are off by default, so I might have to go look and see if there's a way of twiddling settings to make it work. Maybe someone in the comments can help me out with that. We'll see. I had a whole list of things that I wanted to talk about in this video, and I've forgotten half of them already. But yeah, I just want to talk about the logistics of the network and how well that's working. It's fine. Like I said, the cargo dist is a little annoying at times, and I think one of my problems right now is I've run out of like novelty factors with the game. So when scheduled dispatch first became a thing, it was really exciting to actually go and use scheduled dispatch. And then a couple of other things have come along recently. I remember when underwater tunnels first became a thing, the possibilities that created. I think I built like a high-speed line that just went through a massive tunnel just because I could. And, you know, we've used it quite a lot around Greater Guard City, particularly for the underground lines. It's been an absolute lifesaver that we didn't have to have all the lines like slope up across a bridge and then down again whenever we came to water. And it allowed us to build the HLR branch across the city and all sorts of things like that. And every time there's a huge update for the JGR patch, there's always really, really cool features with it. Realistic braking, for example, was another one. Being able to control speed limits from signals rather than having to do it through waypoints. And I think right now I've kind of run out of that novelty factor again. The next big one for me is if this database becomes a reality. And playing around with that is really going to ignite my passion for playing OpenTTD again. Because right now I kind of feel a bit... See, I don't want to sound too negative here because I'm not announcing that the end of the series or anything. But I feel like a bit of a mindless drone sometimes playing this game, where I'm kind of starting to run out of ideas that I can just do in an evening when I've got a free time after work. So this was something that I've been sat on for a little while now, and the first part of this video that you're watching now was recorded on, I think it was the Sunday. And then the second part in a bit was recorded on like the Tuesday or the Wednesday. So you're watching the culmination of like an entire week's worth of recording footage. And that might be my way moving forward now. Some stuff can be recorded just in an evening, like Transport Fever or Railroads Online, which there wasn't an episode this week, but hopefully there will be next week. That was just a time thing. Don't worry about that. Some things like F1. So it hasn't been broadcast yet, but the Canadian Grand Prix, I actually started recording that in July, I think it was, or August, and finished it last week. That's probably the largest gap between two parts of a video I've ever had. That's insane. But that will be coming to the channel hopefully week after next, if all things go well. But yeah, OpenTTD, it's kind of, I've not so much that I've run out of ideas. I've got plans for branch lines and main lines and things like that. It's just finding time to actually put them on the screen. And I really don't want to commit to too many new lines right now, just to then have to redo it all again in a few months' time when this database hopefully gets up and running. So I'm kind of, things like this, it's like 2 new services added to the network. And I think it's a total of maybe 20 trains maximum because of this. I don't think this would be too hard to undo. Freight trains only run every 2 hours anyway. So it should just be a case of changing which part of the hour they're released on. But again, I don't know. And I've been doing a lot of reworking in this series over the last couple of years. And I don't want to have to keep reworking. I want to be building new stuff. And I want to make sure that this database is working to a point where we can just add new lines in immediately as they're built. So literally, as soon as I finish recording, I can go back through what I've built, all the new stations, roughly the gaps between them. If it's a new line that they're built on, then name the line and just input that all into the database immediately, and then use that to help plan out services. So almost make it a 2-part video, where the first part is the building, and then the second part is after it's been added to the database, it starts calculating scheduled dispatch times, that kind of thing. And again, I'm doing a lot of blue sky thinking here. I know that, and I know not everything I'm saying right now is going to be possible, but it would be cool if it was. One thing I was considering, I do a lot of After Effects work at the moment as part of the day job, and I do a lot of video editing that involves, writing captions, writing scripts, things like that. One thing I was toying with was putting the main series on ice for a bit whilst this database is developed, and actually going back to the overview series. So you might remember that. Those of you who are new to the channel, you probably don't know that at all. But I had a series of videos that followed services across the network, and there are 3 that I've had probably since the turn of the year ready to go. And I wanted to get up to 6 before I started releasing them. They were released every other week, and for various reasons, I just never released them. So I might go back and redo one of them. But I think the other 2 are actually okay to go up still. So I might go back to working on that and make it a alternate week thing. So say on a Friday, let's say hypothetically next week will be an overview video, then it'll be a week off, and then it'll be an overview video, and then maybe record something else to go in the off weeks. It won't be OpenTTD though. I think it'll be something else. And I think that just gives time to get this database off and running, but at the same time, it's not cancelling OpenTTD. There will still be something. And there's so many different routes that we can follow on this network right now. So I think the first one we did was Guard City St. John down to Denston, Carnegie. Then we did the big cross region route from Denston up to Sunnington. Then we did Sunnington down to St. Michael, I think it was. Then St. Peter to Munfingford, and then Munfingford is where we got to. And there's a video that I've got on Munfingford, which I could still just upload as is, and then we'll come back and revisit it later, because I think it mentions a whole load of services that at the time didn't exist, but now do. So that would be a bit anachronistic. You'll have to bear in mind that things have changed since that video was made. But you know what? Screw it. I might just upload it as is. And then from Munfingford, we head up to Guard City St. Mark, and then we got the really long one, which is Guard City St. Mark all the way down to Bar City Central, which is probably the longest journey between stations on the entire network, because it runs direct. It doesn't stop anywhere along the route. And then I think the plan... So those are the ones that are done, those 3. I believe they're all edited and ready to go. And since then, I have recorded Bar City Central up to Gronwell via the East Coast, and then high speed from Gronwell down to Guard City St. Mark, and then I think I did the West Winds, or Grand Northern as it's now called, from St. Mark out to Sunnington again. And then I think the one after that was Sunnington to Beffingway. And that's where I got up to. So I could do Beffingway down to somewhere like Pruntford, which is in the southeast corner, and then maybe do a cross south coast run over to Sanley. And yeah, suggestions basically. I like the idea of having each one follow on from the previous. And to be honest, Bar City Central might end up having its own video squeezed in between there as well. That's a busy station right now, and it might even get busier. So we'll see. But I think so. Yeah, Bar City Central. I think I mentioned many weeks ago that I had some trains that were misbehaving. It turned out there was one tile that wasn't dual electrified. It was only overhead, whereas the trains I was using were third rail only. So trains were going into a certain platform, and because that one tile wasn't dual electrified, it was only overhead. They were trying to leave in that direction, and because it wasn't the right tile, they were then reversing, and that's why they were getting stuck. I was so glad when I found out what was wrong. I basically re-signaled the entire station, thinking that was the problem. And it was only because I noticed that some of the central tracks were overhead only when they shouldn't have been that I actually found out that problem. So yeah, that's fixed now. But yeah, I want to go back to the overview series. I know you guys were enjoying the overview series, but do let me know if you like that idea in the comments down below. I go by popularity right now. If things aren't working, then I don't really want to stick at them unless I personally enjoy them, which is a really weird thing to say, I admit, but I like OpenTTD, and this series has done a lot for me over the years, so I'm not going anywhere with that yet. Plus, last week's video actually did very, very well. So, I don't want to, as I said, I don't want to get rid of OpenTTD, but I do want to do other things whilst I'm waiting for stuff to happen. And that's why I think the overview series will be a really good filler. And, you know, I can take viewer requests. There are... route map as well is something I would like to work on at some point. So I think instead of using time to record these videos, I can record the routes and go and do something else while that's happening. So I could start working on like maps, or maybe try and help out with coding on the database. I don't know how much I would be able to do with that. And the UI is on Python, and I basically have no experience with Python. So I could team lead, and that's about it on that, I think. Yeah, I know, helpful. But yeah, let me know what you think to all these ideas down below. Nothing's set in stone yet. I'm just spitballing as I go along. But I kind of want to test myself as an editor again, because I feel like this year has been my best year for video editing. And the sad thing is, you guys as M4J viewers, unless you are subbed to Racing Games, which if you are, that's awesome, thank you. But if you're not, then you've not really seen my best work, because my best work is on the other channel. But I've done some pretty good stuff on here in the past, and I want to take some of the stuff that I've done for Racing Games, some of the skills that I've learned, and actually bring them back to here, because this is my magnum opus, this channel, and the community that's been built around it. God, I'm sounding really preachy right now, but you know what I mean. I want to make something out of this, and I feel like it's got a long way to go still. And I'm enjoying riding the wave right now, so I definitely don't want that to go anywhere. And yeah, might draw some new people in with some better video ideas. I've been using a daily ideas suggestion thing recently. God, some of them are terrible. There was one literally the other day. It just said trains, yes or no. And I thought, what does that actually? How am I going to turn that into a video? It basically sees that I do a lot of videos about trains, and it's like, we could do something with this. Trains, yes or no? Yeah, not helpful. But yeah, let me know what you think about the overview idea, and I'll keep you guys posted on what stuff I've got planned for video editing. Transport Fever has been a really good creative release in terms of trying to build like a transport network, but at the same time, it not be OpenTTD. And I will admit, I was very, very skeptical about Transport Fever 2, and I'm absolutely loving it right now. And next week's video, without giving too much away, is probably one of the best ones yet. And actually, I was reading some some patch notes from the developers about a future update that they're working on now, and they're actually making it more like OpenTTD. Services won't be restricted to a single platform at a station anymore. You can use multiple tracks instead. That's awesome. That's exactly what I've been waiting for. I've actually built something that's already got that in mind in case they brought it in. So I'm very happy to hear that. No idea when it's going to be released. It may never be released. Who knows? But right now, if it is, I'm ready for it. And I love the fact that it's basically a 3D OpenTTD right now. And there's things that I'm learning in Transport Fever that I'm now starting to bring back into OpenTTD. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to work on this oil train project this week. It's because I've been starting to do something like that in Transport Fever. In fact, yesterday's video was the first part of that, starting to convey freight across large distances. And as I was recording that, I was thinking, hang on a minute, I already do this in OpenTTD. And trying to, again, transfer the skills really from one thing to another. And this is what we end up with. Anyway, believe it or not, I actually have some rail news that I wanted to talk about as well. I'm not going to get into the IRP this week. I was going to get into the East-West Rail project. And to be honest, I think I still will. But only briefly. There's just something I wanted to read about. Or something I wanted to talk about that I read about. It's to do with, so the East-West Rail, for those of you who don't know, used to be called the Varsity Line. It used to run between Oxford and Cambridge. It was kind of an arterial route, really. It was quite valuable because it means you can go from the Great Western at Oxford all the way over to Greater Anglia at Cambridge without having to go into London. Which, I mean, you'd think it's a sensible idea to have everything converging in one place. But if you've ever been to London commuting, it's not ideal. What used to be annoying for me was I lived on the East Coast Main Line. I don't anymore. And I used to have to go to Crewe, which is on the West Coast Main Line. And the only way I could do that without having to chop and change trains all the time was to go into King's Cross, walk to Euston or get the tube, and then come out again. Not useful. Either that or drive to Milton Keynes or somewhere like Watford and get the train from there, which isn't very practical either. With East West Rail, I could have gone up to... Well, actually, we'll come to that in a second. But theoretically, I could have gone to the station that interchanges with East West Rail and then headed across to Bletchley and got the train from there. So, the Varsity Line, the Marston Vale Line is the only remaining part of it that's still in use by passenger trains right now, and that runs between Bedford and Bletchley. So I believe it runs via a bay platform at Bedford, then it joins the Marston Vale Line and terminates at Bletchley. Right now, the section between Oxford and Bletchley is being upgraded. Technically, the section between Oxford and Bicester already exists. It's used by Chiltern services, but the rest of it is currently being, so between Bicester and Bletchley is being upgraded. And then from there, Bletchley to Bedford already exists. It just needs doubling. I think there's a single track section that runs into Bedford that's going to be doubled. And then from Bedford, it's going to run north, then east. And this is where it gets a bit complicated. I think there were 9 planned routes originally. They've cut that down to, I believe it's 5 now. But there's a section, I think it's at St. Neots. Let me remind myself quickly. I can't remember which town it is. It might be Bedford, actually. Somewhere like that. There are people at the moment who are buying houses in this area, Bedford, St. Neots, wherever it might be, that are now finding out, within 6 weeks of purchasing their home, they're finding out that it might have to be demolished because it's on the alignment of the East-West Rail. Does that not sound a little bit stupid to you? Because it certainly sounds stupid to me. Now, the problem is, this line used to exist. It closed during the 60s. I think it was I'm making this up as I go along here, guys. But I believe it was around 1968 that the Varsity Line closed. And I am frantically speed reading this article. Yes, since the line closed on January 1st, 1968. So technically it closed in 1967, let's be honest here. But it says 1968, so we'll go with that. Since it closed, the Marston Vale Line obviously still exists because it's in use today. But the Oxford to Bicester to Bletchley section kind of fell into disuse. The only reason it got a revival was because Chiltern started running trains on it in 2016. And then the section to Cambridge was actually turned into a guided busway, which I think has benefited the local community, so I'm not going to knock it too much. But at the end of the day, guys, it's a busway. It's not a railway. They could have turned it into a tram line or something if they were that desperate. But no, it's a guided busway. And that causes some complications. So I mentioned this last time out, and we kind of speculated as to what the headline meant. The headline is, on the front of the magazine, will East-West Rail go south? I think some people speculated, did that mean it was going to run to like Reading or Southampton or Brighton, I think were the three options. From what I can read here, no. I think the actual conversation is, again, I could be wrong here, but the actual conversation is, which direction is it going to arrive in Cambridge from, the north or the south? I think it originally ran in from the south, and that's going to be the planned route now, but there is also a plan to run it in from the north. Now, Cambridge South, I believe, does have a railway station now. Yes, it does. Cambridge North also has a railway station. I can't actually remember if Cambridge South has been built yet, or is in the process of being built, or is yet to be built. But there is a station here called Cambridge South. So this new projected line, it could run via, from Bedford, either Tempsford or St Neots. Tempsford, or there's one beginning with B. And then depending on which one of those it will go to, it will either run to St Neots North or South, then Camborne North or South, and then it will arrive in Cambridge via the connect. There'll be a grade separated junction, the King's Cross to Cambridge line, and then it will run through Cambridge South and into Cambridge, which means it kind of forms this weird U shape as you get to Cambridge. I actually think it might be better to run it in from the north, but I think there might be some like housing developments and stuff in the way, which is another problem. There's a 5,000 home development that's planned for St Neots, and at no point during the development of the railway project did they mention. So it says here, none of the 5 corridors considered in the first phase of the consultation included the land that these 5,000 homes are planned to be built on, and yet when they announced the planned alignment, it ran practically right through the middle of this housing development. There's a lot of unusual stuff, shall we say. I don't think there's any corruption involved or anything like that, don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of incompetence involved, but that's very, very different to corruption. The problem we've got right now is rail is becoming more and more of the villain in these stories. And we don't want to advocate that, really. We don't want to make it look like rail's the bad guy. Ticket prices are constantly going up. The IRP is screwing people over. It's not looking good, we'll be honest. But the East-West Rail could be a solution to that problem, so long as or part of the solution to that problem, so long as they plan it well. I don't know, though. I was skeptical about it from the get-go. There's actually a whole thing in the article that I was reading that says, do we actually need the East-West Rail link? Right now, the Marston Vale line is used by, I think it said 500 people a day, which is nothing. Like, literally nothing. And a lot of it is school kids going to and from school. So during the holidays, they're not using the train. Unless they're going on holiday somewhere, which I doubt. They're not using the train. That could change. Obviously, if you can run trains between Oxford and Cambridge, people might use it. As I said, it's a diversion. It means you don't have to go through London. You bypass London. So I imagine it'd be very popular for that reason alone. But it needs a business case. It needs to have a reason to exist. As much as I'd love to see new railways built in the UK, I don't want to see them mothballed after 10 years because no one used them. So we are going to have to work out what is the point of this. It's kind of like what most people are saying about High Speed 2. Is it actually worth it? Now, High Speed 2, I think, is worth it because the future developments involving it are much more valuable than the current developments involving it, if that makes sense. East-West Rail, though, I do have my doubts. The bit that I'm not a fan of is the section to Cambridge, purely because it's going to be built entirely on new on new alignments. It's expensive. There's going to be new viaducts built, new embankments, some land clearing. Homes are going to be demolished. We're supposed to be building more houses for people right now, not getting rid of ones we've already got. It's not going to be pretty during construction. It's going to be loud. It's going to be dusty. It's going to be horrible. And again, don't get me wrong, there's a railway coming as part of this, but if you can't do it right, you shouldn't be doing it at all, basically. And that's the bit I'm worried about, is it's just going to alienate people. And then once it's built, it's going to be expensive. You can already guess that it's going to go over budget. There's no point in trying to say otherwise. It's going to go over budget. And once it's finished, is it going to be economically viable? And in all honesty, and I hate myself for saying this, but right now, I don't think it is. I want to be proved wrong. If you can combine something like East-West Rail with upgrades on the West Coast Main Line thanks to High Speed 2, upgrades on the East Coast Main Line thanks to the new digital signalling program, and then upgrades even on, say, the Chiltern Main Line and the Greater Anglia Main Line because of the cascading developments from the East Coast and West Coast Main Line upgrades, then there's a viable business model there. And I don't think running Class 230s is a long-term solution for the East-West Rail. Maybe on shorter commuter trains in and out of, say, Bedford, Bletchley, Cambridge, Oxford. Maybe, say, like Oxford to Bletchley, and then maybe from, say, Bedford to Cambridge. But I don't think running them across the entirety of the route is such a good idea. But again, the D trains are good. I'm not saying they're not good, but I'm not sure if they're long-distance trains. I want to be proved wrong on that one as well, though. I like the D train. I've been a huge trumpet blower for the D train, but again, it's got to be done right. Gives them a reason to exist, though, so I can't complain about that. But yeah, I'm pretty much at the end of what I wanted to talk about with that. There's no solution that I think is going to please everyone in this case. I imagine I would be mightily pissed off if I bought a house just to find out that it was due for demolition because it's on the alignment of a rail route. How that was never disclosed, I do not know, but I definitely think there's some legal cases involved there. I also don't agree with the idea of building embankments through someone's back garden. I also don't like the idea of building bridges over someone's house. Dare I say it, but I think the route needs to take a more bypass the main towns, build parkway stations, that kind of thing. Don't go ploughing through the middle of Bedford. Don't go ploughing through the middle of St. Neots. If this housing development is further advanced than the rail, then I think that should be the priority. It would be great, though, if the two could coexist and they could build a station that serves that housing development. 5,000 houses, guys. That's huge traffic for the rail, definitely. And you could also, plug it into a parkway station and people wouldn't drive to work. They'd commute instead on the train. I think there's a definite business model for that. But is that a reason for the entire line to exist? Probably not. To be honest, St. Neots to Oxford is still a pretty decent route. And from there, you can get to pretty much anywhere in the west of England via the Great Western Main Line. So that's probably a better alternative. But again, that's just my opinion. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below, though, for sure. That pretty much does it for this episode, though. The oil is up and running. I've been running the trains for a few days now, making little tweaks here and there. I'm pleased to say it seems to be working out quite well. We do have a whole logistics thing now of oil, chemicals, and petrol that are actually being delivered to actual destinations. We do also have a lot that have no destination, which is incredibly frustrating. If there is a way to turn that off, by the way, please do let me know, because I'd click that box in a heartbeat, believe me. But yeah, thank you very much, guys, for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series so far. Let me know down below what you think about putting this series on ice, if you want to see that and replace it with the overview series. Any ideas you've got for that video series, or anything you've got for here, let me know what you think about the Varsity Line project. If you want to help out with the database, anything, let me know in the comments down below. Very much appreciated. But yeah, besides all that, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support. And until next time, I will see you soon.